This story just keeps getting more insane. So the CEO of FTX, the crypto exchange that collapsed, Sam finally came out and said he was going to explain what happened to the missing money, why they weren't allowing withdrawals, what's going to happen with FTX. The problem is he's not exactly telling the truth because there is so much new info that dropped. We're right about to look at it all and cover what Sam said, and stick around to the end because there's actually some good news. I'll explain what I mean by that. Let's dive in here. All right, guys, I just want to give everyone an update on the situation. It is so hard to keep track of what's going on with FTX, the second largest crypto exchange in the world, not allowing people to withdraw. There's $10 billion missing is the latest number that I've seen. This is horrible. I mean, there's no other way to put it. And in real time, everyone's been trying to figure this out. I've been at my screens now for 24 hours. There's probably a lot of you guys, too, who were online just trying to keep up with what's going on. There was no official communication until this morning. Sam finally broke his silence. He hadn't said anything. He finally came out and he wrote this thread. I'm going to read this off to you and give you guys some commentary. So Sam comes out and he starts it by saying, "I'm sorry. That's the biggest thing. I fucked up and I should have done better." He goes on to say, "I also should have been communicating more very recently. Transparently, my hands were tied during the duration of the possible Binance deal. That deal did not go through. CZ eventually backed out, as you guys all are aware of now. Binance was considering buying FTX. They did their due diligence and figured there's just too much money missing. It doesn't make sense, right? CZ wanted to save the day, but it just didn't pan out." So Sam goes on to say, "I wasn't particularly allowed to say much publicly, but of course, it's on me that we ended up there in the first place." So here's an update on where things are. FTX International currently has a total market value of assets higher than client deposits. I'm going to pause for a second. This is very different from what reports have been saying. And this is the first red flag as I read this thread. I'm going to keep going, but we're going to come back to this in a moment. Because if they had enough assets to handle current client deposits, when you deposit money into FTX, if your money was still there, why didn't they let everyone withdraw it? So he says that's different from liquidity for delivery. Liquidity varies widely from very to very little. Keep this in mind. He's saying that the assets they have, FTX, the exchange, still is more than the amount deposited to the exchange. I'm going to show you guys some info that shows that that's just blatantly not true. Take a look at this. CoinDesk published an article this morning, and they said that FTX used customer funds, among other assets, to prop up Alameda Research in May. Alameda Research is Sam's venture trading desk, market maker. It's basically a hedge fund on the side that he was running with the exchange. He said he was no longer a part of Alameda. I think everyone's figuring out that that was all just an elaborate lie. So Sam, remember, just claimed that they had enough assets to back all the deposits. Now, the report that came out shows that Sam transferred $4 billion in FTX funds, secured by assets, including the exchange token FTT and shares in the Robinhood platform, to support Alameda Research after the trading firm suffered a series of losses from deals. So this happened months ago. A portion of the funds were customer deposits. The exact value of these assets cannot be determined. There's been multiple reports that came out, some were from Wall Street Journal, some were from CoinDesk, some were from Reuters, that claim $4 to $10 billion of client funds were used to bail out their trading arm, Alameda Research, because Alameda Research, their trading arm, took losses. Right? So I'm going to get back to the thread, but just keep that in mind. This is the first red flag of Sam's probably not telling the truth. He continues by saying, "The full story here is one I'm still fleshing out every detail of, but at a very high level, I fucked up twice. The first time, a poor internal labeling of bank-related accounts meant I was substantially off on my sense of user's margin. I thought it was way lower." So as I read this, I want you guys to think about this. Sam, who's founded a trading desk, one of the largest in crypto for the past several years, a multi-billion-dollar trading desk that engages in market making, some very sophisticated trading, right? He runs that. He also runs the second largest crypto exchange, which does billions in volume every single day. Some of the most liquid Bitcoin markets in the world, very complex derivatives contracts, dealing with millions of traders and clients. He said that the first time he messed up was poor internal labeling of their accounts, and he's somehow calculating user margins as if they don't have a system for this. My sense before that was that leverage was zero and we had enough USD liquidity ready to deliver 24 times the average daily withdrawals. In actuality, the leverage of the clients was about 1.7x, which meant they had liquidity of 80% of Sunday's withdrawals. We saw roughly $5 billion of withdrawals on Sunday, the largest by a huge margin. So he said, I was off twice, which tells me a lot of things, both specifically and generally, that I was shit at. And a third time, I'm not communicating enough. I should have said more. I'm sorry. I was slammed with things to do and didn't give updates to you all. He says, so we are where we are, which sucks, and that's on me. Anyways, right now, my number one priority by far is doing right by users, and I'm going to do everything I can to do that, to take responsibility and do what I can. So right now, we're spending the week doing everything we can to raise liquidity. He's once again hinting that they want to get a deal done to make users whole. He said, I can't make any promises on that, but I'm going to try and give everything and anything I have to make that work. There are a number of players who we're in talks with, letter of intent, term sheets. We'll see how that ends up. Every penny of that and of the existing collateral will go straight to users unless or until we've done right by them. The exact same users that he took $4 billion from and gave to his trading desk when they lost billions of dollars trading. Just keep that in mind. He said, after that, investors, old and new, and employees who have fought for what's right for their career, who weren't responsible for any of the fuck-ups, because at the end of the day, I was the CEO, which means that I was responsible for making sure that things went well. I ultimately should have been on top of everything. I clearly failed in that. He reiterates, I'm sorry. He says, so what does that mean going forward? I'm not sure. It depends on what happens over the next week. First, one way or another, Alameda Research, his trading desk, is winding down trading. They aren't doing any of the weird things that I see on Twitter, nothing large at all, and one way or another, soon they won't be trading on FTX anymore. This is probably the second or third red flag. I've lost count. But still, Alameda Research is able to trade on FTX. The fact that his trading desk, which started this entire thing, the fact that he stole client funds, gave them to his trading desk, let them trade, tried to bail them out, they're still able to trade. Right? It's already very clear that they're doing nefarious things, no ethics here, and they're still able to trade. But one way or another, he says, soon they won't be trading. He said, secondly, in any scenario in which FTX continues operating, its first priority will be radical transparency. Transparency it probably always should have been giving as close to on-chain transparency as it can so that people know exactly what is happening on it. All the stakeholders would have a hard look at FTX governance. I will not be around if I'm not wanted. All the stakeholders, investors, would have a large part to play in how it'd be run. He's already talking about the future of FTX as if anyone is going to trade on an exchange where he stole the trader's money to use for his own hedge fund. So he goes on to say, all of that isn't what matters right now. What matters right now is trying to do right by customers. That's it. A few other assorted comments. This was an FTX international issue. FTX US, the US-based exchange that accepts Americans, was not financially impacted by the shit show. It is 100% liquid. That remains to be seen. Every user could fully withdraw. Updates on its future is coming, and I'm going to show you guys some new details that actually just came out. It looks like FTX US just made an announcement that they're going to be halting trading. So it looks like that's going to be shut down. This also isn't true. So he goes on to say, at some point, I might have more to say about a particular sparring partner, so to speak. But you know, glass houses. So for now, all I'll say is, well played, you won. This tweet, he's referring to CZ. He's calling him his sparring partner, and he's alluding to this as a game. Think about this for a second. Just pause and think about this. He is calling what just went down a game, and he's saying he lost this round, and he's ready to take his shot when it comes. CZ is the one that saw this scam, saw the problems here, the risk here, before anyone else, launched an attack because who knows? Maybe he saw an opportunity and he wanted FTX to do poorly so Binance could step in. Maybe it was saving the industry before this got more out of hand. Regardless, Sam takes a moment to say, well played, you won. At some point, I'll have more to say. As if that's what matters right now, that he'll get a one-up on CZ one day. So he says, finally, I sincerely apologize. We'll keep sharing updates as we have them. Man, if you go through the comments, the replies to this, I'm sure as some of you guys are watching and listening and trying to take in what's happening, it's just insane. Like, no one is buying what's happening here with FTX. It's very clear that a lot of the things he said aren't even true. So let's dive in. I'm gonna show you guys some of the new info that's dropped, the new theories that are coming out, where the money went missing, and what the hell this means for the crypto markets. What was interesting was right after this thread came out and Sam finally spoke on it, and there was already some inaccuracies that people started to point out, one of the first things that happened was Tether, largest stablecoin, froze the FTX USDT at the request of law enforcement while investigations occur. So there's already been investigations that have been launched. It looks like they're starting to freeze some of the accounts on the exchange. This could take a while to play out, and right now it's been a super interesting process of people trying to figure out what the hell happened because Sam is not giving us the full story. These are some of the leading theories. I'm going to show you guys what people think happened, and I think this is much closer to the truth than what Sam's telling us. The amount of money that they're looking to raise is where more concerns start to spark because it's now clear that they've lent out $4 billion to their trading desk when they lost that money. It looks like they're trying to raise about $10 billion, so the hole is between $4 to $10 billion. This is the worst suspicions that everyone had, that they were lending client deposits over to their trading desk, and that turned out to be true so far. That's from the Wall Street Journal and Reuters. The worst case scenario is coming true, and Sam spent 20 tweets in a thread telling us what happened. He conveniently left out the part where they're $10 billion in the hole. $10 billion is missing. And there's been a ton of guesses on how this exactly happened, how their trading desk, how their market maker lost so much money. Suzu had a pretty interesting guess. He said it was widely known that Alameda, which is the trading desk, was taking the other side of the exchange's client liquidations for years. When there was those 3 days of 99% sell-only liquidation flow from Luna 1, if you guys remember earlier in the year, Luna collapsed. One of the largest tokens in crypto went straight to zero. So think about it. All the traders that were long on FTX, as they're getting liquidated, if their trading desk is buying those liquidations, which is usually a very profitable position to have, right? As people get liquidated trading Bitcoin, they can buy those liquidations because they're getting liquidated at the bottom. As people short Bitcoin, they get liquidated. Then they take over that short at the top. Likely would have opened them up for a large loss, giving themselves non-liquidations on their own platform. That's one theory as to how they lost so much money. There's also another theory floating around that relates to Alameda Research, their trading arm. It looks like they were invested in Voyager. When a couple of those crypto lenders went bankrupt, they lost about $500 million there. That could be where it stemmed from. But regardless, it's clear that FTX took client funds, propped up his own trading desk, and they weren't able to make the money back. And that's where this whole issue arose from. Bloomberg also had some nice coverage of this morning. I'm going to play you guys a really quick clip that further reiterates that Sam just simply wasn't telling the truth. They also have reports that there needs to be a cash injection to fill up a hole of about $8 billion. So far we've seen an estimate of $4 billion. We've seen $10 billion. They're saying $8 billion. This is what Bloomberg had to say about how much money is missing at FTX and what went wrong.
What do we know about how Sam Bankman-Fried effed up, in his words?
Yeah, he did tell investors that, and he would be extremely grateful, he asked investors, if they would step in and help fill this hole. It's an $8 billion hole in FTX's balance sheet. That is bigger than the size of Robinhood's entire market value. And remember, last year alone, they raised $2 billion in 6 months from investors, from Sequoia, who had marked down the value of its entire stake and had doubled down on its bet. Skybridge was in many levels of series rounds here. The Paul Tudor Jones family was in other rounds as well. There's investors really around the globe that were exposed to this. And so, listen, going back to investors is very difficult. He'll need about $4 billion, according to our reporting. And whether he can get that or not, he would likely have to file for bankruptcy protection if he can't get that money. There's a lot of question about the ramifications here for FTX and the industry at large. I think Jim Bianco put it well in a call we had yesterday, that there's a real risk here that dozens of firms will fail on the back of this, given that they had their accounts with FTX. So you have consumers both on the institutional side, potential miners, brokerages that may not be able to get their money back, as well as customers who have lost billions of dollars here. So unless the industry came in and bailed them out again, remember, this is why JP Morgan thinks that there's going to be more risk here at play and more margin calls. There's a real risk here that there is nobody to save the day for FTX, meaning others will feel pressure from this.
But it gets even crazier. I'm going to show you guys the newest information that I have, how things are playing out currently. Whether people can get their money out of the exchange, I think, is the most important issue for people right now. And we'll talk about the market impact in a second and the potentially good news as well. But this is what's happening right now with FTX. This is the latest. After Sam gave his statement, after people realized this hole's a lot deeper than anyone anticipated, and the worst case scenario was probably true in terms of them using client funds to gamble, people started looking at withdrawals and saying, how the hell can I get out of this? They've proposed that you could buy Tron and somehow get your Tron assets out. They've proposed new buyers coming in. None of that is really clear yet. So people were just tracking the FTX accounts. And it looks like Arkham Intelligence, which is an on-chain analytics firm, they uncovered that FTX is appearing to be processing withdrawals in a limited capacity. $2 million in ETH transferred out in the last 10 minutes. People started going into this withdrawals, and it isn't very clear as to if these are actual clients or if this is Alameda or if this is employees and he's giving preferential treatment. There's a really weird scenario that popped up where there's an account with less than 100 followers, was one of the few people that got their money out from FTX. That exact same person did an interview with Caroline, who's the head of their trading desk, and apparently used to be an employee. So just when you thought it couldn't get any worse, it looks like they're choosing who's allowed to withdraw. Who knows if it's employees taking advantage of a system? Who knows if they're actually choosing their friends and family and getting their money out first? But my God, every single place you look, all the new info that comes out, they can't make a right decision. I mean, it just gets worse and worse, and there's still no clarity. Twitter is having to solve this in real time. Now, what has been interesting to follow is how the markets are reacting to this. So obviously, a massive sell-off the past couple days as it becomes clear that there's huge problems here. People can't withdraw. FTX is probably going to go under. The market actually bounced back pretty strong today. You have Bitcoin up about 10%. It's sitting at 17,000. You have most altcoins bouncing anywhere from 10 to 20%. I have a chart pulled up right here for people listening. I'll describe it. Don't worry. That kind of shows the altcoins that have been outperforming versus the ones that have been underperforming. If you look at coins where they started the month in November, almost everything's down, right? But the bounce today has been strong. There's a lot of coins that are up 10 to 30%. FTT, their exchange token, is almost up 95% just because it dropped from $22 all the way down to $1 or $2. So we are seeing some strong bounces. I think that right now, people are just betting on whether or not they're going to be able to get their money back. Where it gets exciting, and when I said I at least had one piece of good news, I do think this chart is worth looking at. With sentiment at an all-time low, with people feeling absolutely horrible, and I get it. It's a sad time. If you have money on FTX, I feel for you. But I just wanted to kind of lighten the mood a little bit. There is one chart that I do think is quite interesting. Once again, I don't want this to be taken as financial advice. I am not recommending that you go try to trade it back, and if you're down a bunch of money, that this is the time to get risk on and try to catch the bottom. But one thing that I do think is fun to look at and to at least keep things in perspective, if you look at the peak of the last cycle was in December 17th, 2017. It's when we hit 20K for Bitcoin. The pico bottom of that cycle, right, when the market found its top to when it found the bottom, was exactly 365 days. It is a strange occurrence that happened. The bottom in 2018 was on December 17th. So the top was on December 17th, the bottom's on December 17th. If you go back to the top from this year at 69K for Bitcoin, that was on November 10th. It has now been 365 days. It is now November 10th, 2022. The peak was November 10th, 2021. If today marks a bottom, sentiment is at all-time low. I cannot think of any worse news stories, right? I think the chances of this actually playing out are quite low, given that there's going to be more forced selling. There's going to be hedge funds that have to unwind. There's going to be tokens that had their treasuries locked up on FTX that might have to shut down, right? There's going to be carnage from this. And we're still only a day or two in and finding out how bad it really is. But who knows? Maybe some miracle comes through. People can't get their money out. I just thought that was a really interesting chart to look at, where the previous market cycle was 365 days apart from market top to market bottom. We're in a very interesting spot, a unique spot where the previous market top now was on November 10th. Today's November 10th. As you guys are watching this, as you guys are listening to this, if this does turn out to be at the bottom, I just hope the crypto gods have some mercy and can help us out here, because how poetic would that be? But just something to brighten your day a little bit. There's at least a chance, right? Something that you can hope for. I'm not at all saying to go bet some money on it, but at least that gives you something to look forward to. But that right there is all the info that I have. That is the words from Sam himself. It seems like just isn't telling the truth. I'm going to keep you guys updated. I'm going to keep dropping these market updates. You guys know I like to bring you podcast episodes, usually with investors, hedge funds, analysts, VCs, to get their take on how they're making money, how they view the market. Right now, though, it's just a time where people are trying not to lose money. And when there's an event this big, I feel like I have to cover it and keep you guys informed. I hope this does help out. Drop a like if you enjoy these kind of updates. I'll keep trying to put out as many updates as I can to keep you guys informed. So appreciate you guys tuning in. I hope this works out. Who the hell knows? At least we have one chart to hope for. If the bottom is in 365 days later, God, that'd be crazy. I can't picture a week that's any worse than this for crypto, but who the hell knows right now with this FTX drama. Appreciate you guys tuning in. I'll see you in the next episode. Stay safe.